Hey guys, it's Jasper, and today I am doing a writing vlog update. So the main things I've been working on for my novel over the last week or so have been a timeline for my novel, character sketches, and a map for my world. So a world map, or a world map as far as I know the world. The main reasons I've been doing this is that I am about 100 pages, or so just over 100 pages into my novel right now, and I've come to a place where I need to map out where the story is going. And I know some people, as soon as they get an idea for their novel, they outline it right at the beginning, and then they start their novel. Other people don't do outlines at all. For me, I didn't need an outline, or at least I felt like I didn't need an outline initially, because it's a story that has been long brewing in my head, and I've had this idea, and just the way that the first portions of the story went, I was kind of working with material that I had already, really figured out, and I felt I really knew. And so it wasn't essential to have a outline for my novel. That being said, I did outline a timeline of the history of the world that I'm working on, because my story deals with a fantasy novel, and so there's that doesn't make any sense, because I'm writing a fantasy novel, and so I have this entire world that I've created, and so with that comes, in the case of my story, because I love mythology and folklore and fairy tales, that is something that's important to really, that's a big part of my own story. And so I have, mythology for this world, and folklore and fairy tales for this world. And the story itself is, in some ways, it's a tapestry of a bunch of stories, and then you have the main story, which is driving it forward, in which you get to hear, all these other stories. And so at one point I had to create a timeline of the history of this world, so that I know, what's the truth, as far as I know it anyways. And as I'm moving through, then I'm having characters referencing certain events that for them they would be historical events. So it's important for me to know if that was 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 95 years ago, how old the character was, when this thing happened, and all that kind of stuff. So I had created a history, a timeline of the history of the world. But not until this last, week had I created, or I think it might have even been over the last 2 weeks, I've been working on a timeline actually for my novel. And it was very, very important that I did this. In doing the timeline, it had me think about plot points and plot holes, and I have a lot of monsters in my story, and so I had to think about what is motivating these monsters other than just being monstrous, and it made me think about what do they want from this character, or the characters that are around them. And it made me really look at where the story is going, and I had to revise, things that I would have said, no, there's no way that I'm changing that. I had to revise it, because looking at the story as a whole, I realized that the reader needed to receive information in a different way than I was presenting it. And so maybe certain things are still true, but the way that the reader is told about these things needs to change. And so I really, really, suggest, if you're, struggling with your novel, or, I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts to outline it. So far I've been really happy that I set out and I did the outline, and it really helped me think about my story. That being said, after I did my outline, I was thinking about the world as a whole, and one of the main problems I had was I have characters which are, in different areas, different, portions of the land, and I had to figure out geographically, what is the space here, or what are the surroundings like, and thinking more about the world outside of, the particular village and region that I was working in. So what is everything else like? And I've been meaning to do a map for a long time, and I have done some half-hearted maps, just to get by, but I sat down and I put together something, and if you want to know about that process a little bit more, comment down below and I'd be happy to have a video where I talk about that process. But for me, it was just doing a rough sketch, playing around with it, and then thinking about, the different people groups that I know I have, the different creatures, where do they mainly live, what are the different regions like, where are the things that I know about, where are they, and does this all make sense? So I did a map, and that's been really helpful. And then that led into me doing character sketches, which as I was doing it, it felt like, man, I really should have done this. I thought I heard something. I should have done this way earlier on, but yeah, I hadn't, and maybe that was good, maybe that wasn't good, but the point is I put a character sketch out for the main characters that I have so far, and the characters that are right now, having to work together. Because one of the things that I've been having a hard time with is, for a first, good portion of the book, I have, characters all on their own, or a character who is with only one other character. And it's one thing to have one character to write for, or two characters to write for, and dialogue and that sort of thing. But where I'm getting into instances where I've got, now there's a group that's forming, there's 3 of them, and then there's 4 of them, there's more questions in my brain as to, like, what do they sound like, and what kind of jokes do they make, or what is their sense of humor, what are the things that they don't think are funny, who are these characters, and what makes them different? How do I make their voices distinct? And so doing a character sketch was really, really helpful. So I think that's about it. My writing has been going really well, and I have to say, guys, I've really attributed that to setting office hours. So if you haven't already and you are serious about writing, set yourself some office hours and get serious, get professional, because if this is what you want, then make it happen. I have just been thriving and enjoying my time, being serious about my craft, being serious about my work. And I love it. And so I hope that whoever you are, wherever you are doing well as a writer. Comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. What kind of project are you working on? What things are you doing that are being that have been helpful? Are there any issues or problems you've been running into? Share down below. Let's be a community of writers who share and help each other out. And in the meantime, keep drinking the coffee. Cheers, guys.